You've probably heard the phrase a borderless world, right? It's this really popular idea that globalization is making countries, the whole concept of the nation state, a thing of the past. But is that really true? Today, we're diving headfirst into one of the biggest debates out there. Is the nation state dying, or is something way more complicated and interesting actually going on? Okay, so let's kick things off with the most dramatic claim of all, this idea that we're all marching toward a single global community where national borders just don't mean much anymore. And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? I mean, with money, culture, and information flowing all over the planet in a split second, has the main organizing principle of the last 500 years, the nation-state, finally run its course? Is it obsolete? And look, this isn't some fringe theory. This quote comes from what's called the booster school of thought. Thinkers like Kenichi Omai are basically saying that in a world of giant global companies and interconnected markets, countries are just too small, too clumsy, and too slow to keep up. They see a future where power is spread out, much more global. But hold on. Before we can even start to have this debate, we have to get our terms straight. People throw around words like globalization and internationalization as if they're the same thing, but they are not. And trust me, understanding the difference is the key to unlocking this whole puzzle. So this whole conversation really lives inside the academic world of international relations, or IR. For a long, long time, IR was pretty much just about how countries dealt with other countries. But as the world got more connected, the field had to make a really important distinction: the difference between what's simply international and what is truly global. And right here, this is the core of it. Internationalization is just about the extension of stuff across borders. You know, a country exporting its wine or cars to another country. That's been happening for ages. But globalization, that's about functional integration. It's a much deeper, more tangled process where things happening in different countries get woven together into one big system, all supercharged by technology and investment. So, the takeaway is simple: extension versus integration. Think about it like this. A band from France going on a world tour is internationalization, but a supergroup with a singer from Japan, a guitarist from the US, a drummer from Brazil, and a bassist from Nigeria, all writing music together over the internet and dropping a single worldwide at the exact same moment, that's globalization. It's a whole other beast. So if we're going to figure out if the state's power is fading, we first have to understand where all that power came from to begin with. We've got to go back to its origin story. The story of the modern state as we know it really gets going around the year 1500, especially over in Europe. Before then, power was a messy, chaotic patchwork of kings, local lords, and churches. But then a slow process of consolidation began, pulling power into the center and defining clear territories. And this whole massive change was driven by one single, overriding, and very expensive need. And what was that need? Warfare. Plain and simple. The sociologist Michael Mann calls this the ratchet effect. It's a brilliant idea. Every time a state had to fight a war, it had to get better at raising money, organizing its people, and controlling its land. And here's the kicker. After the war was over, that new state power, it never went all the way back down. It's like a ratchet that only clicks forward. With every conflict, the state got permanently stronger. So how'd they actually do it? Well, they had three main tools in their toolbox. First, revenue. States got incredibly good at taxing everything they could, even things like beer. Second, surveillance. They started to systematically collect official statistics, so they knew exactly who lived where and what they owned. And third, and this is fascinating, they worked on making society legible. Basically, they took a messy, complicated reality and simplified it by standardizing everything, from weights and measures to how trees were planted in a forest, all to make their territory easier to see, to control, and of course, to tax. And through all of this, the state was never just one thing. It was a chameleon, always adapting to the world around it. It went from an era of British-led free trade to a really nasty period of protectionism and world wars, and then to the two-sided standoff of the Cold War. The point is, the state has always been a product of its time. Okay, so we've got the history, we've defined our terms, now we can finally get back to the main event. With all that context, how are we supposed to think about globalization's impact on the state today? Well, there are basically three main camps in this debate. This table really lays it all out. So first, you've got the boosters, who we've already met. They're all in on the borderless world idea. Then, on the complete opposite side, you have the skeptics. They argue that this whole globalization thing is mostly a myth, a buzzword that politicians use to push certain policies. They'll show you historical data and say, see, the world isn't really any more integrated than it was 100 years ago, and nation-states are still the ones calling the shots. And then right in the middle, you have the transformationalists. They're the ones saying, whoa, hold on, it's not that simple. They believe globalization is very real and very powerful, but it isn't destroying the state. It's rewriting its job description. So, after all that, which side is right? Which view really holds up to scrutiny? Well, the sources we've looked at point to a pretty clear, even if it's a bit complex, conclusion. It's not about the death of the state. It's about its transformation. So here's the verdict. The state isn't withering away. It's not becoming obsolete. Instead, its entire purpose, its role in the world, is being fundamentally rewritten for this new interconnected era. It's adapting, just like it's been doing for the last 500 years. So what does this transformed state actually look like? Well, for one, it's permeable. It's no longer an impenetrable wall. It's more like a sophisticated filter, managing the flow of global forces. Second, it's an active player. States aren't just getting pushed around by globalization, they are literally co-creating it by building institutions like the World Trade Organization. Third, the state is a mediator, constantly juggling local needs, national politics, and global pressures. And finally, its power is simply evolving. It might be losing some old powers, sure, but it's gaining new ones in other areas. Its power isn't vanishing, it's just changing shape. So we end up not with a final answer, but with a much, much better question. If the nation-state isn't dying, but is actually transforming right before our eyes, then the debate isn't over. It's really just getting started. And the real question we should all be asking is this: what is it going to become next?